Good evening, guys. We are live at 8 p.m. Sri Lankan time, talking about building a great startup. Let's give a couple of minutes for people to come in and get settled. All right, people are joining. Welcome you all. You could actually, I'm first gonna go through the questions that have been asked already, or certain questions that has been in my mind for a long time. And you could ask questions during the live session, and which I'll be taking up on a in the first come first served basis, and I'll be able to tell you guys about the things. All right, can someone acknowledge hi Baron, hello, hi, can someone acknowledge whether you can hear me properly? All right, we have started to receive some live questions. All right, so let's start. One of the main questions that has been asked from me on a lot of live forums and even presentations is when you are young, you will have a lot of doubts. Even you won't be sure whether you want to create a startup, because most often it would be very easy for you to just work for someone, and a lot of compromises are there when you go to creating a startup. Struggle is inevitable. So people ask me, the first question is, when is the right time to start up a startup? It's an interesting thing. The question is more like, when is the right time to fall in love? Because there's no right time. There's no right time. It actually takes years in preparation. It actually takes years in planning and developing yourself into sort of a personality where you can simply go through the life cycle of being an entrepreneur. And if at any point of your life, if you are feeling ready, that could be when you are in your 30s, that could be when you are in your 20s, you could be in your college, you could be in your university, or you could be even in your school. But if you feel that sense of confirmation from within you that you can do that, then if you feel that you have learned the ecosystem, you have learned the environment, how it works, then it's every day, every hour, or any time is a right time to start up the company. First of all, one thing I really wanted to tell you guys is that it's always okay to try and lose, but it's not okay to not try, because there's a very interesting saying that is, you lose every shot that you don't take. Like in basketball, you lose every shot you don't take. If you take a shot, You might lose, but you might as well win. So starting up is always a struggle. I would encourage you to jumpstart and learn the secrets and the tricks on the process. The second question I'm taking up is, which is actually kind of not very common in Sri Lanka. The question is it okay to drop out of college when starting up? In the case of people like Mark Zuckerberg or even the Google founders, they dropped out of college. They dropped out of college, and a lot of other people. If you are in touch with the Silicon Valley ecosystem, you will know that there are a lot of people who casually drop out, and they become billionaires in few years. In Sri Lanka, I have a couple of really talented people who have dropped out and started up and reasonably successful, really successful, some of them. So my answer is a bit of an experience sharing. There's no right or wrong answer for this. What I'm going to do is I'll be telling you my experience, what I did and what worked for me, so that you could see where you can learn something from my experience. So in my experience, when I started my company, it was I was in my third year in university. And I had a lot of doubts. Of course, I had some experience. I have worked in Thailand. I've worked in Japan on projects. I kind of know the ecosystem, and I was working with Google as the Google student ambassador back then. So I sort of had the understanding, and I've always had the desire of doing something on my own. And so I had a choice whether, when I started it up, it was really stressful. It takes me about 16 to 18 hours of my working day, and I had to go back to lectures and follow that as well. The choice that I had is either to drop out or just follow, and I chose to follow. And I finished my degree. But I would say the cost that I had to give is my time, and obviously I used to get really stressed out, because you will have less time to sleep, you'll have less time to reflect, you will have less energy to put into things. So for me personally, it worked out, and I managed to do my college and then my startup at the same time, and be successful in both. So whatever works for you, we have great examples like Mark Zuckerberg who have dropped out and been extremely successful. Mark didn't actually drop out, he actually took a break, and then he came out. He did not completely abandon his studies, by the way. Alright, so there's no right or wrong answer in whether you should drop out of college when starting up if you are too early. So if my experience could help you in any way, just take it in the right way. Let me answer one of the questions that was asked recently and go back to the previous one. Right. Ramindu, yeah, hi, shout out to Ramindu, one of the really great and talented and extremely high-skilled person from Sri Lanka who is willing to share his knowledge to everyone. Shout out for joining, Ramindu. The question is, a lot of startups we see coming out of Sri Lanka are based around building a single product or a few products. Do you have any tips for a startup that does tech consulting services? Is this a market that cannot be accessed by a startup? A very interesting question, Ramindu, and actually a very relevant question which I could answer. So that's exactly what we are doing. So as you might know, Singify is our main product. Singify is a karaoke. It's an intelligent karaoke music app for mainly the South Asian and the South, more like the Asian market, which we actually trying to expand step by step. So the app itself is highly complex. So the app can understand on what pitch you are singing. The app can give you ideas on how you are supposed to sing in real time, whether you need to raise your pitch or whether you need to go down on your pitch. And then the app can give you the lyrics, and then the app can create a studio quality version of your voice mixed with the original background music. And you will get an MP3 that's shareable across our platform. And we do it by licensing the original music, because we respect the music industry, and we always believe that there has to be a win-win logic in everything we do. So that itself is a complex thing. So it took us more than 1.5 years to completely work on the research and then do the pitch detection algorithms and the Android iOS app. And we are still making it better. We are still listening to customers. We are still seeing what we can do better every day. The problem, Ramindu, is when you are so passionate on one product, and when you put all your time and effort, and when the whole startup is working on that, you might lose focus on your cash flow. Because every month, when you finalize your accounts, you will see that you just have money going out every month. You don't have a way of money coming in. And breaking even for a tech startup is minimum 3 to 5 years. Mark that in your mind. Never expect it unless you are, unless that's a perfectly crafted market that you are going into. Don't expect to break even before about best case 2.5 years. So what we did personally is our main company, Icons Innovation and Consulting. We divide our workflow into Singify. On average, it works about 60 to 40. And the 40% of the time we do other projects. We do service projects, we do consulting, we create mobile apps, we create websites, we create cloud solutions, and we partner with research, some research institutes. So that the cash flow is maintained without too much of a drain. So in my experience from Sri Lanka, the advantage of having a tech consulting service or a services startup, it's highly competitive. It is highly competitive. But in my experience, it's a perfect market which can help your company grow only if you know where to look for the right projects, only if you know how to choose the projects that you are doing. Because when you are early, it's going to be very hard for you to get into really high-stake projects because you need to have a profile for yourself as a company. So choosing the projects and creating a name for yourself would simply enable you to be successful in the tech consulting services business. And Sri Lankans, especially, we have a lot of Sri Lankans all around the world who still, who always love this country, and we have a lot of people so successful in the Western countries and Europe, and even some of the Asian countries who are really comfortable in outsourcing the project to Sri Lanka. Even though we have a big elephant in the room, which is India, which is huge in terms of capacity and ability. I have seen a lot of companies, a lot of foreign clients prefer Sri Lankan companies just for the only fact that they see more dedication and more quality. So that's what we are doing, and I'm sure that's completely possible, and I have a lot of examples of people becoming extremely successful in the tech consulting. I mean, I hope I answered your question. Trail back if you have any questions on that. All right, Yasiru Kasap has asked me, hey Alagan, could you touch upon some common mistakes people make when they begin startups? Don't get me started on that. I've learned things in two ways. One is I've learned things by looking at people making mistakes, looking at people failing, looking at people succeeding as well. The second way is the hard way. I've learned by making those mistakes, and often the mistakes I made by myself are the ones that sticks to our mind more. Let me tell you a couple of things that comes to my mind when you say the mistakes you do. First thing is when you are starting up, we often tend to underestimate the impact of the company culture. Because when you start up as an entrepreneur, as a leader, you will have a lot of questions, you will have a lot of things in your head, and sometimes you might get overwhelmed into taking your focus off the company culture. Let me tell you something straight. Company culture is everything, especially when it's a startup. Because if you are a big corporation, it's going to be easy for you to create procedures. It's going to be easy for you to have people doing their work the way they are supposed to be, and then create that momentum and energy in office. But when you are a startup, at start you are going to rely on a handful of people. And if those handful of people don't make it happen, the cost you are going to give is your whole career, your entrepreneurship, the whole future of the company. So most people I've seen forget about the company culture. That's something I didn't do that mistake on my own, because I've seen it for about a decade, how companies create the culture, and when I visited the Google headquarters, I could see that the culture is what makes people give their best. It's not a manual job. We are talking about tech startups. It's not the same job they do every day. It's different things they do every day. The problems they solve are different every day, and the energy they need is the mental energy. So the culture is the first factor that makes sure that employees have the energy. Peter Thiel used to say, this is one of his very interesting quotes. He says whenever he recruits, I want to see passion, because that's the thing that can't be taught. That's not Peter Thiel, that's actually Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey says that, the co-founder and CEO of Twitter. He says, I want to see passion because that's the only thing that can't be taught, which is absolutely true. I've had people in my life who are really, really passionate. And unfortunately, I've had people who are not passionate as well. As a leader, you got to figure out and you got to make sure the people you take in are the right people with the passion. And there's another point which I say when it comes to company culture. I say treat your employees like your shareholders, which is funny because if you treat your employees like your shareholders, they have the feeling of belonging in your startup, and that's it itself is enough to make them completely do their best. And when it comes to company culture, empowering your team and then making sure that the team has a perfect outside 8 to 5, because office is 8 to 5, and what the team does outside 8 to 5 actually impacts a lot in the 8 to 5. So as a leader, you got to figure out how things are with them and extend a hand if they need anything in that case. The second thing people make the mistake is sometimes entrepreneurs try to underestimate work ethics and discipline, because the high profile entrepreneurs showcase themselves as having full-time fun. For even personally, if you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you would see me. I travel to a few countries every year. I take about few weeks of holidays in different exotic places. I go to villages. So it might be easy to mistake that you could put things on autopilot from start. It doesn't work that way. Autopilot is possible only after you come to a certain state. Until then, work ethics is matter. The work ethics matter. There was an interesting thing I recently saw, that you cannot build a billion-dollar empire with minimum wage work ethics. So make sure you have a good work ethics, because you are going to set an example for your whole team as a leader. So your work ethics matters, and your discipline matters in terms of timing and everything. The third point is, I would say the mistakes entrepreneurs do at start is, entrepreneurs underestimate their health. In that case, their physical health as well as their mental health, which would cost them a lot in few years. This is something that I have personally failed. I made this mistake. I used to work about 16 hours and then less sleep, a lot of pressure, stress, and I'm kind of regretting certain things. So having a healthy lifestyle is very important, because otherwise you will age faster, your thinking will get affected, and you won't have enough energy to jump into the issues and find solutions. So those are the three things. When you start up, Yasiru, the mistakes people make when they create startups is, first thing, they underestimate the company culture. Never underestimate, make sure you create a perfect culture. Second, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, work ethics and discipline matters for you. Third, as a leader, no one's going to take care of you. You need to take care of yourself. Perfect. Let me go into another question. This is from Jamini Prabha. Good tech startup environment, right? I'm getting some calls. I just cut the calls. All right. So the question is if all right. Oh my God, a lot of questions. Right. The next question I took up was: is there a good tech startup environment in Sri Lanka? Of course, yes, Germany. I don't know which country you're from. Sri Lanka is, as you might be aware, if you explore a bit in the internet, it's a high-paced, growing country in Asia, which is actually predicted to be the next Singapore of South Asia. All right, I do have my sort of hard feelings about Sri Lanka, about the things which we can do better in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the government investments and a lot. But as a country, about when you consider the attitude and when you consider the environment, Sri Lanka is a beautiful place to start up, especially right now, because we have a lot of talented people in this country who are known to be leaders of many Western and European companies. And we have those talent, the budding talent people who are going out of their college as freshers, joining companies, who could be the best in the industry. And then when you consider, if you compare with Singapore, for example, Singapore or South Korea, Taiwan or Japan, the Asian tigers, Sri Lanka is actually affordable for you to run a company. But if you compare with the South Asian companions, India, Bangladesh, and few other countries, Sri Lanka might sound a bit expensive, but in my experience, everything is worth when you do it in Sri Lanka. So Germany, if you have any plans to start up anything in Sri Lanka, do let us know, and there are a lot of people, very interesting people you could find and you could do. Next question is from Barun. Barun, hi Alagan, greetings from Nepal. My question to you is, what is the one most important trait that we should have that is necessary to be able to start on our own? The question is, what is the one most important trait that we should have that is necessary to be able to start on our own? Without any hesitation, I could tell you, perseverance. We do need a lot of traits. We do need a lot of capabilities into before being an entrepreneur. And rather, if you want to be successful, you need to have a high-paced set of skills. The first trait, the most important trait in my opinion, is perseverance. Because let me tell you, Baron, the startup world is actually, or even though it's often glorified as one of the most sexiest things to do, it is painful. It is painful. It's a lot painful than you might think. There were times where I wake up thinking it would have been a lot easier if I'm working for someone else. Because the problem is a lot of things depend on your decision. A lot of things will depend on what you do and how you lead. And among all of this, you will end up being cornered into a place where you have to take certain decisions, because struggle is real when it comes to a startup. Finances will hit you in your head. Workflow will start killing you. Actually the first 1.5 years in my startup career, some of you might know, so when I was studying in SLIT, I had a small boarding in Malawi. So that's just a simple room, and then our startup is in Columbus 7. It's in London place. So it's more like about 1 hour and 15 minutes and 2 buses to come here if you are taking the public transport. And when it comes to traffic, obviously it would go anything up to 1.5 to 2 hours sometimes. So there were weeks where I sleep in office straight, completely for a week. I pack my clothes when I come to office on Monday, and until Friday, every single day I sleep in office. When you say we sleep in office, the funny thing is I sleep on the floor. Now that we have improved, we have bean bags and every interesting thing here. I used to sleep on the floor. I used to have a bed sheet and just put it up and then just lie down and sleep. Because what I did was, if I finish say about 10 o'clock, I don't have buses back then. You don't have that 177 bus that goes to Malabar after about 8:30. Then I need to go to Boralla and all that hassle, or I didn't have money to take a tuk-tuk. And then I figured out if I sleep in office, I could save about 3 hours up and down, so that I can work up to about 2 o'clock, sleep, and wake up at 6 o'clock. And even though I don't encourage you to do that, sometimes when you are starting up, you got to do that because of the workflow, because of the things that you need to do. So perseverance is the first thing that you need to have. The first trait, the most important trait that you need. And that's something I'm really happy about. If I didn't perceive among those hard times, I wouldn't be here actually. And and another hard truth why you need to persevere is when you are young and when you start up and when you are working your butt off to become successful, sometimes people will make you feel inadequate. Sometimes they do. People will make you feel inadequate. And you need to keep hustling until you prove everyone that they are wrong. You need to keep working hard until you get where you want to be. And there you need perseverance. If you don't have perseverance, it's going to be a lot harder for you. And perseverance helps you take proper actions even when you are in fear. Because of the strength that you have, you'll be able to take swift actions, swift decisions, which will help you in the long run. So Barun, the most important trait that we should have, that's necessary to be able to start on our own, is perseverance. All right? There are a few other things. I'll try to cover the other points during the latter part of the video. All right. Sasika Ranawaka, he's asking, hi Alagan, we all do an economic analysis when we start something. Could you brief on what main aspects we should focus on? Some of us tend to miss critical stuff and end up being unsuccessful. All right, the economic analysis or the cash flow projection is the in and out is one of the first thing you got to do when you start up. And I'll tell you some of the most common mistakes entrepreneurs do at start. When you put the cash flow in before you start the company, you are putting down values of numbers that you are hoping to achieve. Sometimes it's good to aim high. Sometimes it's good to know what you are capable of bringing in, but it's always good to make sure that you have a reasonable projection for the inflow. I've seen a lot of young people having a high projection for the cash inflow, and after about 1 year they end up realizing the cash flow in wasn't as much as they expected. and the cash flow out is it's never gonna reduce, it's always going to increase. So don't make that mistake of overestimating the cash flow in, first thing. The second point I could tell you is try to avoid the cash outflow traps. Sometimes if you, for the sake of starting up the office faster, you might go to a big IT campus or like a trade center, and because the process is faster, but effectively you'll be paying several times the actual price if you take a small place. Even though that might sound good at start, going forward it will drain your cash flows. We call it cash flow traps. So always it's better. So to get this place, me and my business partner, we spent about one whole month going around Colombo, and we found a place with a land and a house set up with a nice hall and with everything that you could possibly expect. And the price we are paying is actually very reasonable. It's actually half than the industry average trade centers. So avoid the money traps. But and also one point when it comes to cash flows, don't get overwhelmed in the first few years about the negative cash flow. Only if you are so sure that your idea works, and only if you are so sure that your projection is positive, say after 3 years, sometimes you gotta let it stay without affecting you. A very good example is Facebook actually didn't make money at start. Instagram didn't make money at start. Instagram didn't make money until last year, but which was sold for about a couple of $1 billion. Still WhatsApp doesn't make money. It just sold for $19 billion. So it's not always the cash flow. If your idea is great, but it's a very tricky situation, Sasika. So, if you're so sure that your idea is gonna pick up, and if you're so sure that in tech, the cash flow, you could actually project the cash flow proportionate to the number of users you have. So sometimes you don't have to make millions of money, but you could value your company at $10 million if you have 500,000 users. The lifetime value, the LTV of per user, could define everything about you. So yeah, that's it. So make sure to do the economic analysis properly, and but don't worry too much if you are going for a unicorn style future. I'll take up one more questions before finishing off. Bhagya has said not a fan of Jack. Me neither. A lot of controversies, but I do take the good parts from everyone. Everyone have their flaws, and yeah. Another question from Chatu Savan. The question is, how do you handle work-life balance considering the portfolio of things you do? All right. How do you handle work-life balance? Work-life balance, honestly, I didn't care about it at start. And later on, I realized that the balance has to be very important. And probably what you mean by the portfolio of things I do, probably my startup and the trainings, the consultations and the coaching I do. How I escape from the hectic schedules is I always try to have time to wind down. I don't run continuously for months. I have a calm down period. And then, so when I get chances like a week off, if everything is positive, I go to a different country, and then I've been to Himalayas, I've been to few other countries, like the places where I feel alive and where I could relax completely. And that kind of resets our mind when we come back. So that helps me balance properly. The second point is having a proper support system in terms of friends and your networks, circles is very important for you to have a proper work-life balance, because you are who you know. So whoever you know, your network defines who you are. So make sure to invest in proper networks and circles. And then the third point is have a daily routine. Wake up early. So what I do is I wake up early. I mean, I haven't been doing this for years. I'm trying for past few months. I wake up and I go to the beach for a walk, and I tend to settle myself before starting my day on what exactly I'm going to do, which kind of frees up my mind. So those things help me, but still I'm being accused as a guy who doesn't have a real work-life balance. Even from my mom to my friends, everyone keeps saying that I give too much priority to work. But yeah, so those are something that I learned, but I'm sure you have better people to advise you on that. All right, one more question we could take. Bala Jayant Balachandran. I am Bala. I'm thinking about starting my own business company. My question is that do we need any relevant experience regarding that field? Because my siblings told me that we don't need to have. So please tell me your opinion. Bala, I would tell you, if you want to be extremely successful, starting from zero, you got to know in and out of that field. Listen again. If you want to start from zero and become extremely successful, you need to know in and out of that field. Don't take it as a negative point, because knowing something or knowledge can be learned in shorter periods. 6 months is actually enough to master almost 90% of the things that are considered complex in this world. Learning a new language, learning a new skill, anything is possible in maximum of 6 months. So if you are starting up, I would encourage you to not assume that, of course there are chances where people have become successful without knowing the field. But I would encourage you to take about 6 months. End of the day, you are going to be an entrepreneur, so you need to work hard. Take about 5 hours a day, become a master in that field, then start it up. One good thing you can learn, one great person to learn is Elon Musk. So probably the only guy I would call my role model. His book sits on my table all the time. So Elon Musk has founded PayPal. That's a finance transaction company. He sold it to eBay. He founded Tesla. Tesla is an electric car company, automobile. Then he founded SpaceX, which is a rocket company. It's easy to assume he doesn't know some of those things, but if you only listen to his interviews and then talk to the people who are close to Elon, you will know that he has mastered even the tiniest aspects of every single business, which ensures that you know what you are leading, you know what your company does, you know that you can Be the perfect leader in everything. Uh, and I'm going to finish that point with a bit of a contrary advice. If someone is giving you a chance, if you are given a chance, or if you have the right timing to start up something, but you don't know that field, you can actually start and learn things on the way. Only if you have the commitment to do so. That's a contrary advice on the same point. Next question is, Dinushi, would you like to go out on a date with me? Sorry, darling, I think this is the wrong forum to ask me that question right now. One more question. Thiru Kumaran Hayana, you said that you started your career as entrepreneur while studying in college. How you manage your time? It's kind of hard to manage time. Yes, brother, it's always hard. One interesting thing that comes to my mind, my business partner Yadav, who is from UK. Yadav, if you are watching me, a big shout out to you. Yadav said me once, which is very interesting. Like, entrepreneur is someone who doesn't have money and time. So, if you are an entrepreneur, you don't have time and you don't have money as well. And that's entrepreneurship. Doing things even in that, in the middle of that restriction. That's entrepreneurship. So, time is a real factor. But if you think, Thiru Kumaran, we have about 24 hours in a day, and if you actually start writing a journal of how you are using your time continuously for a week, you would understand that you are completely productive only about 6 to 8 hours a day, and you sleep for about 6 to 8 hours a day. Even if you consider the top height, 8 and 8, 16 hours. 16 hours, you have another 8 hours. If you find out the time traps where you can actually utilize, you'll be able to manage it. Of course, it's going to be hard. Of course, you will have to be in your office or in your room with your laptop when your friends are out, they are partying. Of course, you have to do all those compromises, because that's what gonna set you out as an exceptional person. Talk to me personally if you want to know a bit more about how I started up even when I was studying. Alright, Akshika has asked what happened in Cebu. I'm not gonna answer that. So Akshika, me and a couple of other guys, we went to the Google Summit about, I don't know, about 3-4 years before. And that happened in Cebu, Philippines. Let's not talk about it, brother. Another question, do you believe in luck in being a successful entrepreneur? Who is your role model? First question, do you believe in luck in being a successful entrepreneur? No, absolutely no. There were times when I, even some people whom I really respect told me, Alagan, you're doing really good, you're lucky. And then there were times where I have fought back saying, no, madam, that's not luck. Because I know how much I've compromised to get here. It's easy to make things sound like overnight success, but behind those overnight success, you will have sleepless nights, years of hard work. So luck, take that off completely from your dictionary. Luck, in my experience, is nothing. Who is your role model? That's complex. I've just told you guys a bit before. Elon Musk is the closest to what I would consider my role model. Being an entrepreneur who is the founder of 3 different billion-dollar businesses. And yeah, I could actually happily call Elon my role model, because he has been doing things that people uh, simply reject as impossible, like bringing a rocket back home to Earth. Even NASA didn't try. The Falcon goes, shoots the satellite out and comes back and lands like a pencil. And they even land on a ship. And NASA has given them contract to send out their satellites. Crazy. I respect that guy. And I respect the perseverance he has. I think one of you, it should be Baron, who has asked me about what's the most important trait that you need to have is perseverance. If you know, like Falcon has, the Falcon rocket has crashed about 5 to 10 times. And Elon Musk did not give up. SpaceX did not give up. There were times where I watched the video of Elon Musk waiting for the rocket to land, and then the rocket just lands like everything is normal, and then it crashes, and then the whole ship blasts, and he's just standing there with a slight tear in his eyes, but still coming back in a month again with the next version of Falcon and making it successful. There was a time just a couple of months before one of their rockets exploded even before it left Earth, carrying Facebook's communication satellite, which is worth about $300 million. And I saw the messages passed between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk that the rocket was crashed. And it's really stressful. It's really stressful. And yesterday they reused the Falcon again. The rocket that went and came back to Earth is reused yesterday, which is like a remarkable achievement for the whole humankind. So the perseverance is what makes me think Elon Musk is my role model. And apart from that, I have a lot of real life role models, like whom I see on a daily basis. I think Mangala, I'm not sure whether you are there. Mangala, big shout out to you. Mangala is the director of software engineering and research at IFS. He's a wonderful guy who has been the person whom I ask advice whenever I'm confused and whenever I need an expert opinion. And people like Sayantan, who is the from Zenith Mobile and the founder of YAL IT Hub, one of the wonderful gentlemen who has been giving me real life advices and taking myself forward. And I'm lucky to have like a lot of people around me whom I look up to whenever things happen. And always I owe my success to them. If I didn't learn a lot of things from them, I wouldn't be able to achieve this much within this short frame of time. So yeah, role models comes in real life. Talking about role models, I should actually say this. My mom is actually one of the biggest real life role models for the relentlessness of hard work she puts. So we saw the effort she. It's actually common. Every mom is a hero, and we have seen the effort she puts, sleeping at 12 o'clock, waking up at 3 o'clock, preparing everything for us. And the worst point is we are 5 brothers in the family, and it's like a whole fight club every day. And making sure that we all learn what we are supposed to learn, and we all are raised to be confident individuals, to be able to do anything. And so I owe my success to a lot of real life heroes in my life. Right, before finishing, let me take up one more question and we'll call it a day. All right, the question is, products. Oh, right. Okay. How to make sure that you have a good product idea. How to make sure you have a good product idea before starting a startup. That's a very interesting question. One thing that's very important is, which is actually asked by, if you have read 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, you would know that the whole concept of creating a successful startup, it rolls around the fact of what problem you are solving. So before creating a product, see what problem are you solving, and you need to have a solid problem that you are solving. Otherwise, you're not going to make it work. You need to have a solid problem. For example, when Facebook started, the problem Mark tackled was the fact that the communication wasn't there between people across the country. It was too hard. It was too hard to make things work. And when WordPress started, the reason was the problem they sought out was to making blogging easy. And then when Medium started, Blogspot was huge. WordPress and Joomla were so big that everyone thought no one can enter. Then Medium came in. The problem Medium solved is always the blogs revolve around one author, and Medium gave the prominence to topics and articles instead of authors, and they did it by simplifying the whole interface and making everything so easy to look and read and comprehend. When Uber came in, the problem they sorted was a lot of people out there with cars, and a lot of people out there who need to go on a ride and connection. And when Airbnb did the same thing for houses. So you need to solve a problem. Even if you are starting up a restaurant, you need to know the feasibility of that in that particular area that you are going in. And so always know your product, what problem are you solving. And if you construct your whole ideology with based on the what problem you are solving, you are never gonna go out. Even if you have competitors, you'll be always be on the right track. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if there is any question, I would love to answer. I'm sure because of the time constraint, I might have missed a couple of questions that was asked previously or asked right now. But I wish you all a great evening and a good Saturday night. And if you have any more questions, now that you could search me as Alagan Mahalingam on Facebook, or you could drop a mail to hello@alagan.net, and you could be in touch with me, and I usually love to share my experience and network with like-minded people. So let me know, pass me. If you have any questions, you could reach me at hello@alagan.net anytime. And stay awesome as always. Have a great night, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and looking forward for more successful sessions like this. And a shout out to the Sophia, the Sustainable Education Foundation. They are doing a great job. Even though they are small, they are doing really great job in bringing in people and utilizing the technology in terms of sharing knowledge. I expect that to become the TED sort of for the online live video sharing. A shout out to Sustainable Education Foundation. Keep in touch, guys. Have a good night. Bye.